Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm Dr. Hina Majid. I am going to teach you the histology of small and large intestine. This is a continuation and a part of your histology of gastrointestinal tract. First of all, we are going to take up the histology of small intestine. So as you know, small intestine, it is approximately 5 to 7 meters in length, and it consists of three parts: duodenum, jejunum, and the coils of ileum. These three segments comprise your small intestine. The basic functions of small intestines are the final digestion of the food, nutrient absorption, and endocrine excretion. It excretes some hormones as well. As you know, the four basics layer of the gastrointestinal tract, which we have been doing in the histology lectures, that the three layers that follow the GIT tract are mucosa, submucosa, muscularis externa, and serosa. Mucosa consists of the epithelial layer, lamina propria, and muscularis mucosae. Then you have the submucosa, which is the dense connective tissue. It has nerves, vessels, lymphatics, and a nerve plexus known as submucosal or Meissner's plexus. Then you have muscularis externa or muscularis propria. It consists of two muscular layers. And in the GI tract, you know that follows a scheme: inner circular and outer longitudinal muscular layer. Between these two muscular layers is a myenteric autonomic nervous system plexus, which controls and regulates the contraction of these muscles and helps in the process of peristalsis along the gastrointestinal tract. Then you have serosa or adventitia. In some parts you see serosa, which consists of connective tissue layer covered by peritoneum, and in some parts there is adventitia. There is lack of peritoneum, only a connective tissue layer. And considering the small intestine, duodenum, jejunum, and ileum, the duodenum, first part of the duodenum is covered by serosa. It is known as the duodenal cap, while the rest of the duodenum is covered by adventitia, while jejunum and ileum are covered by the your serosa. Mucosa of the small intestine has some peculiarities which we are going to discuss. First of all, you must know what are plicae circularis. Plicae circularis, when viewed macroscopically, the lining of the small intestine shows a series of permanent circular or semilunar folds. These folds are known as plicae circularis, and they are also known as valves of kicking. They consist of both mucosa and submucosa. The folds are comprising of mucosa and submucosa, and they are well developed and best developed in the jejunum. They appear in the distal duodenum and appear throughout the jejunum, and is a well developed feature of jejunum, and they appear in the first half of ileum and then they disappear. So plicae circularis, they are folds of mucosa, epithelium, lamina propria, muscularis, as well as submucosa. Mucosa plus submucosa folds to form these folds known as plicae circularis, and they are permanent folds in comparison to the folds known as rugae, which you observed in the stomach, which were temporary folds which disappeared when the stomach was full and distended. But plicae circularis, they are permanent folds, and they comprise both mucosa and submucosa. It is commonly asked in your MCQ, what is the composition of plicae? So you must know they are mucosa plus submucosa, and they are best developed in the jejunum and are a prominent feature of jejunum. And over the entire mucosa of the small intestine are small 0.5 to 1.5 millimeter mucosal outgrowths. And these mucosal outgrowths project into the intestinal lumen. These mucosal outgrowths are called villi. The mucosal outgrowths are covered by epithelium, and the epithelium here in the intestine comprises of simple columnar epithelium consisting of the enterocyte with microvilli, and they have goblet cells as well, intervening goblet cells as well. So mucosa and submucosa folds to form plicae circularis. Over these plicae circularis are mucosal outgrowths known as villi. These projections known as villi, and these villi are covered by epithelium, and the epithelium comprises of enterocytes and goblet cells. The enterocytes are the absorptive cells, and they have cylindrical protrusion of the apical cytoplasm known as microvilli, which give the intestine a velvety appearance. So these enterocytes, they are covered by microvilli. Each enterocyte has about 3,000 microvilli. Between the villi, which are these projections of the mucosal outgrowths, between these villi are these depths. They are known as the crypts of Lieberkühn. Between the villi are opening of short tubular glands of intestinal glands or crypts, and these intestinal glands open into these depths known as crypts of Lieberkühn. The epithelium of the intestinal glands is continuous with the epithelium of the villi, and the epithelium here is lined with different cells, which we are going to study. So villi are a characteristic of the small intestine. It gives the velvety appearance, characteristic velvety appearance. Villi are mucosal outgrowths, which we have just studied, that they consist of epithelial lining along with lamina propria. And in the lamina propria, you have a core of connective tissue. In this core of connective tissue, you have arteriole, veneole, capillaries, and a central lacteal, lymphatic central lacteal for the absorption of fats. Common asked question in your exams is draw and label the cross section of a villus. So you have to draw this cross section. You have to label these enterocyte or the absorptive cells with microvilli giving a brush border. The absorptive cells are lying on a basement membrane, and in the center of these cells is this network, lamina propria, connective tissue with the network arteriole, veneole, capillary, and central lacteal. Commonly asked question. I must say this is a commonly asked question. Draw and label the cross section of villus. So you must know that they are mucosal outgrowths and they are lined by epithelium, and epithelium consists of absorptive cells and goblet cells. Absorptive cells have microvilli giving it a brush border. The cells are lying on a basement membrane, and underneath the epithelium you have lamina propria, and in this lamina propria, the connective tissue, you have arteriole, veneole, capillary, and a central lacteal. Also, epithelium, laminae propria, muscularis mucosae. Some of the muscularis mucosae, smooth muscle cells, also project into these villus, and these are responsible for the contraction and movement of the villus. The shape of the villus varies in the three regions of the small intestine: duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. The shape is leaf-like in the duodenum, finger-like in the jejunum, and club-like in the ileum. This is also a picture of the villus, and this is a villus with a central core, arteriole, veneole, and central lacteal, lamina propria. And between the two villus, you have crypts of Lieberkühn, where the intestinal glands open. And the villus is covered by different epithelials with different cells, absorptive cells, and then you have the goblet cells. Down in the intestinal glands, you have endocrine cells and Paneth cells. The cells are very important, which we are going to study further. Another important question asked is the factors that increase the surface area of the small intestine for absorption. So the factors that increase the surface area are, number one is the length. It is 5 to 7 meters approximately, such a huge length of the small intestine. It increases the absorption. Then you have plicae circularis, which we have discussed. They are permanent circular folds, and they're composed of mucosa as well as submucosa. These increase the surface area by 3 times. And over these plicae circularis, you have mucosal outgrowths known as villi. Villi increase the surface area 10 times, and the villi are covered by epithelial cells, the absorptive cells, and these absorptive cells have these apical cytoplasmic projections known as microvilli, and microvilli are going to increase the surface area 20 times. So the total absorptive surface area of the small intestine is over 200 meters square. Villus is covered by epithelium containing absorptive cell and goblet cell. The absorptive cells, enterocytes, have these apical projections known as microvilli, which further increase the surface area by 20 times. So the different cells lining the intestine, in a small intestine, covering the intestinal villi and the crypts of Lieberkühn, which we are going to study. The most important cell here is the enterocyte, the absorptive cells. It is covering the intestinal villi, the absorptive cells. Absorptive cells, or the enterocytes, are tall, columnar with their oval nucleus. They are rich in mitochondria for energy. Then they have endoplasmic reticulum, smooth endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus. The apical part is covered with microvilli. Microvilli are cylindrical protrusion of the apical cytoplasm. They are about 1 micron in height and 0.1 micron in width. These microvilli give it a striated border or a brush-like appearance. See, they have this striated appearance, brush-like border appearance. This you can see in higher magnification. Absorptive cell with a basal oval nucleus, Golgi. Then you have this microvilli, giving it a brush border appearance to increase the surface area for absorption. Each enterocyte has about 3,000 microvilli. Each 1 millimeter square of mucosal surface has about 200 million of microvilli. And over these microvilli is a special glycocalyx. Glycocalyx, it contains disaccharidases and peptidases created by the enterocytes. And this helps to hydrolyze the disaccharides and dipeptides into monosaccharides and amino acids, which are then easily absorbed by active transport and immediately released from the enterocyte upon uptake by the capillaries. Next cell you have is the goblet cell. Goblet cells are interspersed among the enterocytes. You can see this goblet cell. These are the enterocytes, absorptive cells with the microvilli, and these are the empty looking goblet cell. As the name indicates, the goblet cells have a goblet appearance, the goblet glass like appearance, and they have a basal nucleus, and in the upper portion they appear empty because they have discrete glycoprotein mucins, which when hydrated form the mucus, and during the routine staining this mucus is washed off. So you can see mucus from the goblet cells. These are the goblet cells and these are the enterocytes. These line your villus. These are the mucus secreting granules in its apical portion, and in the presence of water they become mucus, and during the routine staining they are washed off. The function of goblet cell is to protect the lining of the intestine, and they lubricate. The mucus helps to lubricate the lining. As you know, the food, as it is passing down the intestine, water is being absorbed, so the fluid content is becoming less and it is becoming harder. The food is becoming harder. So hard food can damage the intestinal lining. So we need lubrication, and for this lubrication, the mucus is produced by the goblet cells. Next, you have the Paneth cell. Paneth cell are located in the basal part of the intestinal crypts. So this is the projection, the intestinal villi, and these are the intestinal crypts. And in the basal part of the intestinal crypts, you have these Paneth cells. Paneth cells are, they are basophilic at the base and eosinophilic in the top. Because they have eosinophilic granules which they secrete in their apical part. The Paneth cell granules release lysozyme, phospholipase A2, and hydrophobic peptides called defensin. All of these break and bind and break down the cell membranes of the microorganism and bacterial cell wall. Paneth cells have an important role in the innate immunity, and they regulate the microenvironment of the intestinal crypts. So these are the Paneth cell. They release eosinophilic granules, which help in maintaining the microenvironment of the intestine, and they play a major role in the innate immunity. They secrete defensins and phospholipases. Another important cell in the intestinal lining is the enteroendocrine cells, or the APUD cells. They are present in varying number throughout the length of the small intestine, and they secrete various peptide hormones. As the name indicates, enteroendocrine. Entero means intestine, endocrine means the cells which secrete hormones directly into the bloodstream. The enteroendocrine cells are columnar in shape with the basal nuclei, and they secrete various peptide hormones. Two varieties are known, open type and the closed type. The open type are the ones in which the apical part of the cell contacts the intestinal lumen, and they secrete their granules into the intestinal lumen as well as into the blood capillaries. While the closed one, they don't have contact with the intestinal lumen. They are closed on the apical part, and they release their granules into the bloodstream. Functions of the enteroendocrines are different function depending on the hormones which they secrete. They control and regulate the peristaltic movement. They help in the secretion for the digestion, and they maintain a sense of satiety, which is the sense of fullness. Microfoil cells are a special cells, specialized epithelial cells in the mucosa of ileum only, and they overlie the lymphoid follicles of the Peyer's patches, which are present only in the ileum. These cells are characterized by presence of basal membrane invagination of pockets. These basal foldings contain many intraepithelial lymphocytes and antigen-presenting dendritic cells. M cells, the microfold cells, they lack microvilli. They just have microfolding at their basal membrane. And in these microfolding, they house in the lymphocyte and dendritic cell, antigen-presenting cells. Whenever an antigen is present, a bacteria or virus is present, these are going to engulf or endocyte these antigen and transport them to their basal folding, and they are going to expose this antigen to the lymphocytes and to the lymphoid follicle, the Peyer's patches. They overlie the Peyer's patches, and they are only present in the ileum, as Peyer's patches are only present in the ileum. So in the ileum, when you're going to see the slide, you're going to see villi with different enterocyte and microvilli. And at presence where you see lymphoid follicles, aggregate of lymphoid follicles forming the Peyer's patches, here you see specialized cell microfold cells. They lack the normal brush border and they have basal infoldings where they are going to house these immunological cells, and they are part of your immunological protection. Stem cells are present at the base of the crypts along with the Paneth cell. They are present at the base of the crypts, and they help in the cycling, regeneration of the cells. Stem cells and caveolate cells, they are present in the crypts, and the stem cells help in they divide. And whenever there is a need for generation of these cells, absorptive cell, goblet cell, they are going to divide, and they can differentiate into either absorptive cells on the enterocyte, goblet cell, enteroendocrine cell, or the Paneth cell. Submucosa of the small intestine. Submucosa, as you know, is a dense reproductive tissue. It contains blood vessels, nerves, lymphatics, and submucosa of the submucosal nerve plexus, Mesenus plexus, is present in the submucosa of the small intestine. Submucosa of the duodenum is very important. Submucosa of the duodenum contains a gland known as Brunner's gland, and it is going to secrete mucosal secretion. It is a mucosal gland and it is going to secrete mucosal secretion. It is only a characteristic seen in the duodenum, submucosa of the duodenum. MALT, mucosa-associated lymph nodes, lymphoid tissues present in the submucosa. They are segregated and isolated groups of lymphocyte. Aggregation of lymphocyte into lymphoid nodules is seen in the ileum only, and this is present as Peyer's patches in the ileum. Peyer's patches are usually present in the lamina propria, but can extend into the submucosa, and they are only seen in ileum. Muscularis mucosae is well developed and consists of inner circular and outer longitudinal muscles, and in between these muscular coats are the myenteric autonomic plexus, and which regulates the process of peristalsis. Serosa, which consists of the connective tissue covered by peritoneum. Serosa is present in the first part of duodenum, which is known as a duodenal cap. Rest of the duodenum is retroperitoneum. Jejunum and ileal loops are covered by serosa. Special features seen in duodenum are the Brunner's gland. Brunner's gland are branched tubular mucosal glands with a small secretory duct which open among the crypts. They produce alkaline mucus about pH of 8.1 to 9.3, and their function is to neutralize the acidic chyme that just enters the duodenum from the stomach. It protects the duodenal lining by lubricating and coating it, and brings the intestinal contents to optimum pH for pancreatic enzyme action, as in pancreatic enzymes need an alkaline medium to act. So this is a slide which you must know is a slide of duodenum. You can differentiate it and recognize it by the presence of leaf-like villi. These are the leaf-like villi. And presence of submucosal gland. Submucosal gland, duodenal gland are present in the submucosa. So in the mucosa, you see epithelium, brush border epithelium, leaf-like villi with brush border, striated border. Presence of enterocytes and goblet cells can be seen in the epithelium. Lamina propria extending into the villi, leaf-like villi. Muscularis mucosae. Muscularis mucosae can also extend into the villi, and submucosa is filled up with these mucus glands, and the ducts of these glands are going to open into the crypts. These are mucus secreting glands, and as you know, the mucus secreting glands have oval basal nucleus, and they are empty looking, white looking, because they are filled with mucus secreting gland. Duodenal gland in the submucosa. No glands can be seen in ileum or jejunum. Only glands are seen, submucosal glands are seen in the duodenum. Then muscularis externa, inner circular, outer longitudinal, and between these muscularis externa is the myenteric plexus. And then you have serosa First part of the duodenum is covered by serosa, rest is covered by adventitia. Special feature of jejunum are prominent plicae circularis. Plicae circularis, which we have known that they are the folds of circular permanent folds seen in the small intestine, and they consist of mucosa along with submucosa. They appear in the distal duodenum, then they are present throughout the jejunum and prominently seen in the jejunum, and then they're present in the first part of the ileum, and after that they disappear. So in the jejunum, you can recognize jejunum by these finger-like villi with prominent plicae circularis. Prominent plicae circularis. There are no glands in the submucosa. No glands in the submucosa. No pure patches. So this is jejunum. Prominent plicae with finger-like villi. Ileum. You identify ileum by presence of these lymphoid nodules, and these are known as Pear's patches. Lymphoid nodules can be seen. They extend up to the submucosa and they are known as Pear's patches. Villi, the shape of the villi is different. Here it is club-shaped villi, and over the Pear's patches you have special epithelial cell known as microfold cell, M cell. Villi are covered by absorptive cells and goblet cell, but the epithelium over these Pear patches is covered by microfold cells. So the presence of club-shaped villi, presence of lymphoid follicles and M cells help you to identify that this is ileum. Ileums have Pear patches, which are aggregates of lymphoid nodules, about 100 to 200. 30 patches are present in the humans, most of them in the ileum lamina propria. Most of them are located in the lamina propria, but these can be too much that they can extend into the submucosa as well. And ileum is covered by serosa. So you have a question that differentiate between, give the histological differences between the duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. First of all, you must know that the difference in the villi, which are the mucosal outgrowths. Villi are leaf-like in duodenum, finger-like in the jejunum, while club-shaped and shorter in the ileum. Next, you must know that Brunner's gland, the mucus-secreting glands, are present only and only in the submucosa of duodenum. Duodenum is filled up with these submucosal glands known as Brunner's gland. They're not seen in the jejunum and ileum. Jejunum is characterized by prominent plicae circularis. And ileum, in the ileum, you have lymphoid nodules, which are present in the lamina propria extending up to the submucosa. These are the Pear's patches, lymphoid aggregates forming large Pear patches, and overlying these Pear patches you have a special cells known as M cell or the microfold cells. So the longest villi are in this jejunum, wider are in the duodenum, while short villi are in the ileum. So there's logical differences in the small intestine, duodenum, jejunum, ileum. You must tabulate this. It is a commonly asked question. First of all, you have to differentiate between the villi, leaf-like in the duodenum, finger-like in the jejunum, and club-like in the ileum. Goblet cells are going to increase. As I told you that as the food is moving downwards, water is being absorbed, it is getting hard, stool is being formed. So hard matter can injure the epithelial lining, mucosal lining. So you must need lubrication for this. So as you go down, the number of goblet cells are going to increase, and it is going to increase further when you move into the large intestine. Lymphatic tissue, it is scattered and solitary in the duodenum and jejunum, while it is aggregated to form Pear's patches only in the ileum. And over these Pear's patches, you have a special cell known as microfold cells or M cell, and these are only seen in your ileum. Glands in the submucosa are seen only in the duodenum, and they are known as Brunner's gland. An important clinical correlate relating to the small intestine is the celiac sprue or the celiac disease. It is a disorder of the small intestinal mucosa that causes malabsorption and can lead to damage and destruction of the villi. The cause of the celiac sprue is an immune reaction against gluten or proteins in the wheat, rye or barley. The resulting inflammation affects the enterocyte, leading to reduced nutrient absorption. So what happens is that the person is genetically sensitive to gluten. Gluten is wheat content, it is present in wheat, barley. So whenever the person eats wheat, chapati or roti or bread, he has severe pain, nausea, headache. What happens is that immune reaction occurs against the gluten protein, And when this immune reaction is taking place, the immune reaction also destroys the intestinal villi. See, these are the normal healthy villi, long, but they are destroyed and they cause villus atrophy, decrease in the height, and they are all then destroyed out. As the villus is decreased in height, surface area is decreased nutrients are going to be absorbed, so patient is going to lose weight. So whenever he's going to eat wheat or gluten, rye, barley, he's going to have swear, bloating, diarrhea, abdominal distension, gastric distension. He's going to feel fatigue because nutrients are not being absorbed. So when this person is going to present to you in the medical outroad, he is going to say, whenever I eat roti, I have swear gastrointestinal disturbance. What should I do? So you must think of celiac sprue, and you must have his test done for celiac disease. So now we have come to an end of histology of small intestine. So if you have any questions and queries, please ask me. I hope you have understood it. Now we are going to take up the histology of large intestine.